The laid back is. All right, 2-minute warning, 2-minute warning, we'll get started.
2-minute warning.
Yeah, I got one more person I have to get to the table.
We'll come in here. Okay. You bet.
All right, we'll get started. The Airplane Commission meeting for October the 2nd. We'll stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brenda, if you could call the roll, please.
Atkins,
Here.
Bothwell,
Here.
Royals,
Here.
Cottle,
Here.
House,
Here.
Hicks, Hunt,
Here.
Nevers,
Here.
Knuckles,
Here.
Pearson,
Here.
Todd, Wright,
Here.
Reedy.
Here. Okay, so we do have the minutes in front of us from September 11th. They were in the packets. Any questions?
Mr. President, the only one I saw was under 4. I made a motion and there was no name there who seconded it. So I'm not really sure who did second that motion.
Well, that is interesting.
That was the only thing I saw.
Listen by the voices.
Anybody remember if they were here? Wasn't you? We go back through the minutes, check and fill in.
Oh, listen again.
So if Chair would want a motion to accept the minutes as
Yeah.
presented, except for
And
that
then-
one change.
Yep.
I have to find
Find
out
what
who
it is.
seconded that. That way we can go ahead and have this done.
Sounds good to me. Once we find out, go through the tapes and figure out who that was. So do we have a second to approve the minutes with the adjustments once we find out who the culprit is?
Second.
And we got first from Steve and second from Royals. Call the roll, please.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Abstain.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Hunt,
Abstain.
Nevers,
Abstain.
Knuckles,
Abstain.
Pearson,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Chuck.
Yes. Did I make it over the finish line?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so moving on, public hearing, we got some old business. We got a pond ordinance. We discussed this last week or last meeting, some of the fine tuning of it so that it could be presented. It's basically a public hearing. We are a recommendation body to the county commissioners and then to the towns and cities that are members on this. We had quite a bit of discussion, made some changes. I would say changes, areas that we discussed and put into it. So basically, I don't anticipate a lot of input on this from the public one way or the other, but it is a public hearing, so we will give the opportunity for the public to speak. So generally the way that is, it's 15 minutes and then a rebuttal and then back and 4. So we'll see if there's anybody out there that would like to speak in favor of the pond ordinance. If they are, they can come to the podium and speak. All right, seeing nobody that wants to speak in favor of it, and we'll open it up for opposition. Seeing nobody in opposition, so there's no chance for need for rebuttal, we'll call the hearing closed. Now we can discuss among ourselves. Like I say, wait, because we were making a recommendation to the county commissioners and then to the towns and cities of this pond ordinance. Any questions or discussion? Man, we must have really thoroughly discussed it last meeting. Way to go, guys.
I do have one question.
Okay,
We have a citizen in Van Buren that has I don't know what you call it, but it's out front of his house and it is a pretty good size. It's like a holding tank with fish in it.
mhm.
Would that be part of this?
I know we discussed that a little bit. Like a koi pond, you know, that's one thing. If it's getting a little bigger than just a garden thing.
8 by 10 probably.
Okay, well, it's out on the sidewalk area is why I asked. And some people have complained about it in the past, but I just thought I'd ask in case that comes up again, so I know what to tell them.
It'd be grandfathered in anyway.
Okay.
It'd be prior to.
Any other discussion? I guess we're looking for a motion to make a favorable recommendation, non-favorable recommendation, or no recommendation at all.
Make a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Who made that second down there? Bob, all right. So got a first and second for a favorable recommendation. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Nevers,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
All right, so that'll be forwarded on to the appropriate bodies. Next up, this was basically a continuation from last meeting because the party was not here to represent or speak. Are they here today, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, would you like to explain the situation, Ryan? I think they're just asking for one modification to the written agreement to the slaughterhouse.
Right, so we're affectionately known as the slaughterhouses. We've known it since back, 2 owners ago. We do have a written agreement out there, on it. Mr. Gillespie is willing to honor that written agreement. He asked for only one change, and that is, 1.2.1. The approved use is for wholesale slaughterhouse operation. It had said before without retail sales. He is asking, for that with retail sales.
Yep, that's the only thing changing within the written agreement. So thank you for showing up. I know we talked to you a while back. I don't know if you want to reiterate or anything, or,
I just apologize for not being here. I forgot the meeting and they didn't have my number to call me back, so no big deal. So just puts it behind us about a month, so.
so I know we discussed this in our previous meetings that we were we basically said, let's get it written up. Both attorneys looked at the paperwork and agreed. So we're basically, is this another recommendation to the county commissioners?
Yes.
Because it's in the unincorporated area, so it's a recommendation. Any discussion, any other discussion among,
Okay, so that means you're gonna have a meat counter.
Possibly in the future, it'll be quite a ways down the way. Basically, it'd be what I consider a will call. Call up, say, hey, I want 20 pounds of ground beef or, whatever we have available. A lot of our stuff is limited supply right now because we have current customers that take a majority of it. So it would be it would be a will call basis. Until we got bigger and was able to afford maybe someone to work on Saturdays and stuff like that, and just take care of those things. But it would be down the road.
How many species?
Currently, right now, our grant of inspection is for beef, swine, and sheep, and I believe goats possibly, but I'm not really into that right now. Mainly beef.
And does retail sales require a different level of inspection,
No, just different labeling.
different labeling?
Mhm.
So that anything that goes to the retail counter will have to have been approved by an inspector,
Yes, sir.
state or federal?
We are federal only.
How many kill days?
1 a week.
1 a week. You get that guy there, you're doing well.
What's that?
You get the inspector there, you're doing well.
With federal, we do fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you remember, Mr. Gillespie came in,
Yeah, somewhere around there.
3 months ago and presented to us, and I think we could probably go back and you asked the same thing.
But that's because it wasn't retail then. Now it's retail.
Yeah, but yeah, I can see, because if you got most of your kills are already spoken for, so there's probably not gonna be a whole lot that you can have on hand.
Yeah,
for
it's-
Somebody driving by.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is ground beef sales. Like everybody wants ribs, ribeyes, New York strips, filet. Everybody wants that, but the whole beef isn't made of that. Because if we could make it, that'd be pretty good for all of us. But so no, so those are, and just locally, just Grant County in general. A lot of people, they want some local product, and we'll be able to provide that in time.
Are you feeding on the facility or you're bringing in fat?
We bring them in. They're raised in Reynolds, Indiana, at Biotown Ag. That's the parent company. They have about 5,000 head of beef on their farm up there. And then we'll have some beef out in the pasture. Currently, I have 2 Holsteins out there from a local farmer, and just for grass control, just to try to keep everything down. Just because I was mowing for like 6 and 8 hours at a time, and I didn't like that.
Now, are you gonna do custom butchering also?
Yeah, we've started into that now currently. So starting out slow with that. I only have 4 guys that work with me, so.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, so then, once again, we are looking for a recommendation of approval, non-approval, or no.
Is there anyone for or against?
Well, is this all hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I guess we should do that. Now follow the right procedures. Okay, sorry about that. Anybody else for? Since there is time allotted. Okay, anybody in opposition would like to speak? Seeing no opposition, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Any other discussions? And we're looking for a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendations. Once again, this goes to the county commissioners for their actual final approval, their decision, I guess.
Budget favorable.
Favorable,
Do we have an ordinance number?
That will come from you when I
Very
get to
good.
you.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Broyles made the motion, second by
I'll second that.
Tyson. Okay, thank you. We'll call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Couse,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Nevers,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
So this will go on to the commissioners. Sure when their next meeting is, but not too far down the road.
I'll move this, talk to Dave, I'll give this to Kyle to get the legalese of it done to
Okay.
present to the commissioners.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Next up is rules and procedures.
I'll get to it.
Everybody should have got a copy of this, or if they were here at their packets a few months back. Once again, just a little recap, rules and procedures. Mr. Boswell started working on this many, many years ago. Then we did some more updating. So when myself, Randy, Brian, myself, and David, we were all up there a couple meetings. We went through what we had. We incorporated or looked through all Mr. Boswell's recommendations. Yes.
Hold on just a moment with that. My name has been associated with the work that's been done over the past 4 years. Your committee, I was simply one
Right.
of the people who were assigned to this. The committee did the work. It's not my composition.
Okay.
I kind of wish it
That's-
were. Some things that I would like to address, but it has constantly come back that Dr. Bothwell says or that or what. It is not. Okay.
Duly noted.
What was given, what we have ready to prepare to present, it's been ready for 2 years now, as of July, 2 years ago. But in any case, we haven't had that opportunity yet to work with you folks. And the last time that I was here, and you've been working on trying to get to this for last 6, 8 months or whatever. But the last time I was here, it was determined that our committee would work with Ryan. Get with Ryan, show him what we had, so on. And if he had input that he wanted to give, we'd go there. That's never happened. We've not had that opportunity to sit down with Ryan at this point in time. What did happen was an email came out that I saw that said that Ryan was looking for, that he was appointing a committee.
That was, yes.
And that's what the email said, that he was appointing a committee to look at rules, regulations, so on. Our committee was, I was new.
I didn't take it that way, but
So anyway, that's what the email was.
You were gonna get a hold of me. I waited 2 weeks. I hadn't heard from you.
Yeah.
I talked to
the bottom
president, and the president
is
said
I
he was
just want
full.
folks to
Right.
know that
I think
that we've kind of been left out of the process. A new committee has been established. And part of the problem, guys, with this, I really don't care. Bottom line, we have a new committee that met and worked, and I'm sure that they did it, in as competent a manner as they could. But each of them, with the exception of you, Chuck, don't know what the past rules and regulations were, why they were there. What our instruction was to look at the current rules that we had and to work in that. And, that had been done. And then somewhere along the line, it was determined that we needed a lot more expanded into our rules. Frankly, I think a lot of that, Ryan has done a nice job of trying to put the state and the local handbook that we have for Grant County and incorporated that into our rules. One of the fundamental things that I think I've addressed with this group before, one is in the case of our rules and regulations, the more rules and regulations that you write in to your code, the more boxed in you are in terms of having independent thought in whatever the process is. Secondly, why would we need to have the state code incorporated into our local rules? Why would we need the county? It's obvious that if the state code says this, we are subjected to that. We don't have to incorporate that into our local rules. We are ruled by three different groups, and our local rules are the least of those three. The one that's most important and is imperative is the state. It's written in the code. Okay, so that should just be, county handbook or county code, that's second. We can't do anything in opposition to that. So it doesn't need to be here. The rules that we're going to adopt is for us locally. Okay, so anyway, bottom line, we've become very expansive. And we've done that, I think, with what I've seen, to no avail, no good reason. And every time, if we do this, guys, every time the state changes a rule, we have to change ours. We have to write that in. We have to review it. Every time the county, if that's not a part of that, it's understood. When the state changes something, we're subject to it. But if we put it in specifically in our rules, when they move, it requires us. There's no reason for that. Okay, so I think it would be a really good thing if Ryan would meet with the committee that put this thing together, look at our work, talk back and forth. And I think that there's a whole lot that we could do about condensing what is about to be presented. There really is not a good reason that I can see why we are going to have a huge new local handbook when the other one has served us well for 40 years. Now, are there changes that need to be made? Yeah. A concern that I have, and I haven't seen it. I didn't get a copy. I don't even know what we're looking at, to tell you the truth. But a concern that I would have is that we have in the past used local rules as weapons. Weapons against somebody on a personal level that maybe we don't like on the board, or we can find a reason. For example, state code says that if you miss 3 meetings, that there is a consequence. Okay, our local, we went beyond that, which we are allowed to do. We can't go less than what the state says, but we can go beyond that. And so we wrote into this thing about 7, 8 years ago when we were having trouble getting a quorum to our meetings. We wrote into that, if you miss 3 meetings, you forfeit your position, you automatically resign, and you will be replaced. State code doesn't say that. No, that's not, that was put in, and that was put in purposely to let some of the people who were never coming to the meetings to understand that, hey, if you don't, you're out of here. We need your participation. The thought was good. The result is not necessarily so good because people now have been subjected on a personal level to those kinds of rules. I was, for example, I'm one that this group, someone on this group tried to remove me because I had been gone. We won't go into all that. We can talk.
Okay, well, I don't want to bring it back under the control.
Bottom line is, and no gavel mic. The bottom line is, we need to further consider this. We need to sit down. We need to talk. If not, we can do the kangaroo thing and work something through. It's ridiculous, guys.
All right, so thank you for your comments,
Thank
but
you.
I will go on to what we did. There was email sent out, volunteers were asked. We had 4 of us, right? Plus Ryan was there. I do believe you were invited to that.
I was not.
There was an
Point.
evening that,
Let's bring that up.
We held a spot to the
I was
last
not
minute. Do
invited.
not, Randy. Randy
never
even
invited.
called you.
Nobody called me.
We.
Anyway.
You are a liar.
my understanding,
Then Randy is a liar.
Randy
No.
is a liar.
no, wait a minute.
Randy tried to call you and get you involved.
Gosh darn. Huh.
This is the problem.
So,
Is Randy the one that appointed the committee? Is he the one that had the authority? The email said
He did.
that you were
I did.
appointing
He
the
okayed
committee.
me
And
to
Chuck
do it.
then.
And we held a spot for you.
I'll do it. So either one of you would have been the people. Randy has.
Randy.
To
has
clarify
hold
the
spot.
discussion that Ryan and I said, I told Ryan that I would reach out And since you had done some work on it to try and include you in the group, I don't think we ever spoke. I think I reached out, but I don't think you and I had a communication. So Ryan, I apologize
Nobody
if
ever-
you were led to believe that he did respond. I did reach out. I told you I was gonna reach out.
Right.
And,
And my understanding was we were holding a spot for you, waiting for a response through emails. And Ryan said, well, if you can't get a hold of him, I will step up and take that spot. That is the communication I got.
now, wait a minute, let's clarify that. You were told that I had been contacted and couldn't be contacted, I couldn't. be-
Well, there was email sent out.
You were part of every email
sent
thread.
out saying that he was appointing another committee.
We,
Already a part of your committee.
right, and we used, if you let me explain what went on. So we brought together 4 people and Ryan, and we sat down and we had the list that your committee made up. And we had a list of recommendations from the office. And the first thing that we did when we sat down, we went through every point item that your group had on there.
Not me.
Your group, I said, the group that, your committee. And we went through every bullet point on that before we even touched the other stuff.
And this is what you brought me and handed to me.
Okay, so we went through every item and we analyzed it. So yeah, that sounds good. The corrections that needed to be made. And some we found were not exactly the state or the state code or whatever. That would not be right. So we went through that. Then we took the recommendations or the research that Ryan did, and we went through those step by step by step over 2 different meetings. We were there quite a bit that first meeting, if I recall. And I think within the consensus of the group was, we didn't like the idea of being simple, short, vague. And so we figured, so I think the essential was put in those state guidelines, not only because it's the rules, but we're sitting here and we have our rules and procedures that refers to this state code, refers, or it's in state code. Well, if we got a question, then we got to go track it down, and we may not be able to track it down that meeting. If it's in the procedures, why we're doing a certain thing, it's right there handy, and it refers to the state code and explains it. Rather than saying, refer to the Indiana code as it is, and no explanation of what it is or why. Am I getting to the gist of why we decided we wanted to list?
Is
The
the
state.
Indiana code in text, word for word verbatim?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what we had in our worksheets. And again, this stuff was already within our rules, but wrong. The idea of this was to get our rules in line with Indiana
I
code.
have.
It was
no
already
doubt.
present.
And we
There's
just.
no doubt that the
spent
committee
hours
working
working on
with
this. I mean, it
Okay.
wasn't just an hour ordeal. We spent hours on this.
No,
And to make sure that it was what we were looking to do.
I have no doubt that you really worked a good thing. This is not a criticism of the work that you guys did. And you did work, I'm sure, over 2 meetings. The committee that I was appointed to worked over a year and a half to come up with what they came up with.
And we
haven't yet had that opportunity. Now, I've made the explanation about why I think it should be shorter and concise. You have a good point
Right.
too. I'm not arguing any of that kind of thing. I'm arguing the process and who's been left out and who's been included. You know, guys, let's quit this stuff.
Let us do, Bob. Let us quit this.
We ran this
And the
by.
last time.
we were,
Right.
This was all taken
Discuss-
up with everyone. Everybody approved it
the
for
last-
us to do this. That's what I'm not understanding. This has been months ago.
we did at a meeting, a public meeting right here, we discussed volunteers to step up and help get this across the finish line.
I'm just.
And right in a public meeting a few months back.
Again, I think the largest point with this, when we started this in November 2021, according to the Indiana Planning Association, a review of the rules is a 2-month exercise. We are going on 2 years.
We're going on 4 years. Or 5, actually. Chuck, what year was it that you became president for the first time?
I really don't know. One-
And what's it matter?
What, yeah, I mean, we need,
And what's it matter, Bob?
Hey,
We
it's
have-
important, David. Just.
Well,
Well, we're here now. We've gone through a lot of this. We spent a lot of time. You
Yep.
weren't there. You
He's
had an
talking about
opportunity.
these 2 years
You,
he's
you
put-
gave him material. We worked over your material and now you just want to talk and not
No,
do
I
anything
don't.
for the county.
You're the one doing the talk, and you've done that.
This is simply nothing more than another roadblock
It
and
was
it's
a
getting
block.
old.
Four
I'm
or
I'm
five
thinking what's
years
going to end
ago.
up
No,
happening.
Not a roadblock.
it,
Yes, it
4 or
is,
5
Bob.
years ago.
Yes, it is, Bob.
And to this point, no, just listen, please.
We did that.
4 or 5 years ago, when you became president and I had
This is
just.
getting old.
Correct.
Waste of
We
time.
had just gone through a real problem in the paper.
Use that.
You remember that? And how hotly contested that was. We have rules that we had to abide by that got us sued. I talked to you about that as you came in and said, here are 2 or 3 things that we really need to look at. We need to be able to pass to a second hearing without either approving, denying, or conditionally approve something. That's what got us sued. That was one of the items. Anyway, there was 3 or 4 things. And I had gone previous to you coming in to the commissioners. Asked the commission, what do you think about this? And they sent me to Mr. Pershing. Now, it hadn't been very long ago. I have asked Mr. Pershing while he sits here, how many times, you guys should be able to remember some of that. We have not heard, Kyle, how do we change these rules? Who made them? How do we get it amended? Just to take care of it. To this day, the rules that you have, that still has not been in.
I've got,
I need Mr. Glickfield. Perhaps he would do that. I hope so. But there are things that, most important part of the rule change that we need to make has not even been addressed. Because it takes
All right.
something from our attorney.
Motion to
Let
approve.
Dave gamble.
Seconded.
are you sure you want to do that right now?
Oh,
Without discussion of all the other stuff?
We've had the discussion. Well, we tried. Yeah, and it just blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah.
blah, 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 you too.
I will take exception to a little bit. Within our meetings over those 2 nights, we did take notes on questions that we had issues with to get back to the attorney to clarify certain positions. So the attorney has actually looked at this, looked at our questions or answered or gave us feedback so that we knew what to do when we got back together to address some questions. So he was not out of the loop. So
Could I ask, Ryan, on the data that you received from us, the committee? Was there something in there about we're waiting on the attorney's opinion?
under consideration is a CAFO authority, ability to move CAFO. And I've got information up in the CAFO laws up in my office.
Said
And
that thing that we gave to you about things that we, on our change, that we were recommending, we were ready to present.
We
There's an
just-
item right up the top, 1 or 2, we're waiting on the attorney's opinion.
Yeah, you've got it on page 2.
And we never got that addressed, guys.
And
And
I've,
that's the most important thing.
again, I've got the information in the CAFO, all those laws.
It's good.
I've got them up in a folder.
But it's not incorporated in the rules that we're about.
we addressed some of that issues when we were going through there. Items like the solar, wind farms, major things, we referred because we realized if we put every document and procedure within the rules and procedure, it'd bloom. So when we deal, let's say a solar company came in and wanted to do something, the office would pull all that packet or information out and get it to us so that we know what we're supposed to be doing, rather than having it all embedded into the document. I think that's the first, what we kind of discussed, and we said, what, do we want to list all however many, was like a dozen or 8 or a dozen?
We had at the beginning, we actually addressed 2 of the 8 orders of approval.
And that's exactly my point that you're making, Chuck. I don't think we need to. incorporate
Well, because, well, for those
state
things,
law and can't handle it.
so,
But we
And so-
had
I had
2,
my say.
we had 2 of the 8. and we discussed, do we just want 2 of the 8, or do we want all 8 of the 8, or do we want to try to put them at the end so that they're there? Or if something comes up, do we want to print them off and hand them out as we're, if a CAFO comes in, here's CAFO law that we could hand out with the project.
I do know we got a motion and a second on the floor, but I do think we still need to discuss whether we go through, I don't know, has everybody gone through and read and understand what, if we were to vote right now? I think we need to, personally, I think we need to discuss a little bit more. Because there was some changes that we discussed and talked about. One would be the makeup of like the executive committee. Because earlier in the year, I believe we voted to have it at 7, right? We discussed and thought that I think even with the attorneys thought that is a majority and that would cause complications. To keep it, get it back down to 6. And our thought is within the group was to eliminate to have the, was the agricultural extension, which is now the county surveyor, right?
Right.
Because they were like appointed, they were automatically on there. That was one of the,
They're non-voting members.
right, even though they're a non-voting member, they're still there, makes the 7. So we figured, well, we'll just eliminate that position as far as being a non-voting member and bring it down to 6. That way that executive committee can function the way it's supposed to. So that was one change compared to what we originally voted for at the beginning of the year.
Are they willing to rescind their motions?
Well, we can either rescind or we're going to have a long time of discussion.
Well, you got motion.
Yeah, second, I know. So,
They're really supposed to roll call unless they're willing to have some.
well, we can have discussion.
We can have discussion as long as we don't have roadblocks. And now the roadblocks are getting old.
They are.
It would be very irresponsible
Right.
for this commission to simply
Right.
approve that document without having discussion.
And I would love to have a discussion as long as everyone included.
Okay. So I believe I have a current copy in front of me. Everybody more or less, you don't have one in front of you? Do we have an extra copy available? Do we have an extra copy?
So everything's in the packets.
They were sent out in the packet a few meetings back, I do believe.
Yeah, well, we've handed it out a couple times.
Oh, you got 'em?
This week.
Okay, oh, okay, yes, there is. Bob, there should be one in your packet. Yep. Could be more or less the last thing I think in your packet.
Sorry, it is.
Isn't it?
There.
This was handed out today. The other one was.
October 2 minutes should be the last thing.
Not in my phone. It's what my concern is.
In mine.
It's not in yours?
It is in mine.
Yep, it's in mine. You got yours there? Pass that down. So yeah, so yes, it was in the packet that was mailed out a few weeks back. So rules and procedures, anything in red is state code that we added, right?
Red is a change or addition / correction to Indiana code.
Okay, yeah, there's the key up the top. Everything in black is original or current rules and procedures, and blue is suggested design that still needs some input. So the general statement is basically to incorporate who's all involved, how we became about. And then number 2 is powers and duties of the Area Plan Commission. The powers, so the black is what was there, the red was additional writing.
Well, and we had it in some form. We have it now in state form.
In state form. So powers, making recommendations, appropriate legislative bodies. Adoption of a comprehensive plan, which we're trying to get the process through there, getting some funding for adoption of text amendments of an ordinance.
Mr. President,
Yes,
did we have a motion and a second for us to be over? I don't know what stage we're in.
but I think we're discussing, right? So you want to officially rescind?
Yeah.
Or you want to, or we just keep, because usually after the first and second, there's a discussion time. I mean, we can do that. It may just take a while when we get to the end.
Yeah, should I ask again what the motion was? What,
To accept what's in front of us, basically.
to accept this,
Right,
this document as written
yep,
total
but,
when
but
BZA has gone through theirs page by page. And talked
that's
about
why
it.
we're here tonight.
But we're not going to do that. We're going to have this discussion. I don't know how many of us have read this thing thoroughly.
I've read it 3 or 4 times.
I'm sure you have. How many of you have read this thing? I obviously haven't because I hadn't gotten, but there's not a lot of us that have, so.
I'll rescind
I
it
would
if
think
you guys,
people
if
who
we can
adopted
work on it.
obviously would have.
I just want to get through it, make our changes and get it passed. I mean, that's
I
what we're
don't
here.
think you can do that in one
This
night.
stuff just sit for months.
How complex this is.
If you guys remember right, I pointed out 4 or 5 items that I wanted discussion
Right.
on in the last meeting. As I stated before, it would be very irresponsible for this commission to pass this document without discussion,
Yep.
considering the impact that it has on what we are here to do.
Right.
As long as everybody's putting a few cents worth in, I'm fine. Let's work on it together. Let's get through it.
So that officially rescinded.
Absolutely.
Making that-
if we're discussing this and not what happened X number of years ago.
Okay,
Yeah, let's just work on it.
all right. Duly noted that the motions were rescinded. All right,
Before we go on, so the game plan is what then?
well, we're gonna go through item by item. If you got questions, concerns, if you guys are the ones that were there, if you remember why we discussed or whatever. I know, Randy, you had some areas that you had questions or why we thought this way or what there was other inputs or angles, because I know when we sat there, we thought of different angles and interpretations and why is it this way or that way? And there were a few that we thought we still needed a little help on.
Mr. President, would it be feasible for us to have a special meeting, perhaps even earlier or whatever?
We're here tonight to do the
With this
business.
being the sole topic where we can come together after everybody's.
Everybody had the opportunity to read this. We got this 2 meetings, 2 or 3 meetings ago,
Yep,
and it came out in today's, or this packet.
yep.
Everybody got it that I'm aware of. I'm not sure why it's not in your packet.
I'm not sure either.
But it was in the packets. The review again, that was 10 days ago. And we received them 3 meetings ago. So I don't really want to delay it anymore because if we call a special meeting, and we got almost a good majority of the people here to make decisions. We call a special meeting. Who knows who's going to show up? We had short business at the beginning of the meeting. Now we can get into this and hopefully get through most of it. We may or may not. Then we pick it up on the next meeting and hopefully have it wrapped up. That would be my,
I just think it would be a good idea for us to have perhaps a committee of the whole, so that we could all come in and we could be candid and we could sit down.
we can be candid right here, Bob.
And then bring it back for adoption or not. I don't think that we. can-
You say it's been several years since you've been working on this. Now we know why.
Why, David?
All right,
Because of you, Bob.
Mr. President,
Mr. Wright.
I
so,
think you're out of order. David.
so just a question, Mr. Atkins, you were on the committee.
Right.
And you were going to bring up things tonight to take off of this? Is
Well, not so much.
I'm just trying to understand the process.
The process that I'm familiar with is the process that the Board of Zoning Appeals went through, where we looked at each page. We discussed each page. We approved each page. We came up with a final document that we ruled on today that we're going to have written with those changes made, in which Mr. Hartman will sign to become the official document. I think that that is the attention that a document of this nature should be given.
Okay,
I don't think this is I would not expect everybody on this commission to go along with what the four of us decided. That was not my intent. My intent that I thought I was there for was to create a basis to begin discussion on, not to create a final document. There were questions that we had. We did not necessarily have a lawyer representation there. To clarify that, we do have lawyer representation now. I really believe that it's our responsibility to consider this a very important document, and we go through it. I have some questions I would love as we move through this because the questions I will ask will probably rock just a little bit.
yeah. And the only reason I bring that up, you were on the committee, correct? And so I'm just trying to kind of place that on, if you had questions, they weren't addressed while you were in the committee meetings and talking about these.
Well, there were some there. Well, I'll let Randy speak.
And again, I'm not trying to point out anything other than the fact that I'm just trying to understand the process.
Some areas that I believe merited full commission discussion.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because like I said, I didn't sit there with the intent to create a final document
gotcha.
to stamp for everybody who's on this commission.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we got it.
If you
A lot of the
remember, I
nuts and
had
bolts there,
concerns
but there
about
were
advisory
items.
committee making decisions.
Let's do it.
I'm on that committee also.
Yes.
I don't feel comfortable making decisions totally for this commission, unless it's in a crisis situation where something has to be done immediately.
Mhm.
And I don't think this is a crisis. We have a rules and procedures that is active until it's changed. That was clarified in the Board of Zoning Appeals. So it's not like we don't have a document that we're working with. This is an attempt to update it. It may take a month. I don't know.
All right. So we ready to go?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
I would just, one other point I would make. We all need to try to remember that the comprehensive plan, the surveys should be coming back at the end of October. So we've got that coming back to us in November.
Okay, general statement. Do we need to read it out loud or can you guys read in front of you? And if you have questions, just the general statement, Area Plan Commission.
Here's what I was talking about, Steve. What we've been waiting for.
It's basically a mission statement, if you ask me. Any questions or concerns on the general statement?
What we sent back in.
Next up, any questions? We're okay with that? Should be pretty simple. Okay,
Yeah.
I do have some asterisks in the next section. So Randy, I think you got some too. So we do maybe have some, if we can remember what our thoughts were about it.
I do.
Okay. So powers
Got the three of them.
and duties of the Area Plan Commission. The 2.1 powers, Grant County Area Plan Commission per Indiana Code makes recommendations to the appropriate legislative bodies or bodies concerning. And then there's a whole list of things here. Adoption of the comprehensive plan and amendments to the comprehensive plan for Indiana Code. 2.1.2, adoption or text amendments of an ordinance per Indiana Code series. Then there's a list of items here. Initial zoning ordinance, replacement of zoning ordinance, and a subdivision control ordinance or others needed ordinances. I have an asterisk out here. Do you have an asterisk out there?
I have some concerns in regard to.
Later on?
The powers.
Oh.
And I guess.
And then there on the backside, there's more powers. Let's
Yes.
get through the rest of the powers and we can come back because the next is duty. Adoptions or amendments to a plan unit, district ordinance per Indiana Code, zoning map changes, rezoning per Indiana Code, rendering decisions for plots, replots, and amendments to plots of subdivisions per Indiana Code, shall assign street numbers and lot numbers and structures, shall renumber lots and structures, and shall make decisions concerning development plans and amendments to development plans per code, unless the responsibility to render decisions concerning development plans has been designated under section Indiana Code. So these are the powers. So the next section is duties. So Randy, you have some questions.
Yeah, I'd like to direct a couple of questions toward Mr. Whitfield. It's my understanding that all ordinances require public hearing. Is that,
Ordinances, not all ordinances require a public hearing. Most ordinances require a public hearing.
and what discrimination?
So anytime there's any type of penalty, any type of fine, you have to have a public hearing on an ordinance. So most ordinances which have regulations will eventually have some type of a fine schedule attached to it. Those definitely require a public hearing. There's all types of ordinance, financial ordinances that have to have public hearings. So to say a blanket rule, all ordinances have to have public hearings, that's not completely true. It's true the vast majority of the time.
Okay, well, it's been brought to my attention, and, we're going to go with a very critical subject here. There is doubt as to whether the ordinance that the commissioners approved actually went through a public hearing. I think that ordinance was identified as draft 4, where the actual certified ordinance that the commission sent to the commissioners was considered a draft 7. And there was a public hearing on draft 7, but to my knowledge, there was never a public hearing on draft 4, which was the commissioners' approved ordinance. So I think there needs to be some consideration given to that. I'm sure that it can be fixed if that is the case.
So what's the question for me?
The question is, has the solar ordinance approved by the commissioners went through a public hearing?
Obviously, I can't answer that because I'm not their attorney. I don't go to their meetings. I don't know what they've done and not done. Steve might be able to answer that question. Obviously, he's a county commissioner, so.
I mean, as I went back and reviewed the minutes from the meetings that led up to that, there was a distinct reference between draft 4 and draft 7. And draft 7 was what we labeled as the certified ordinance that went to the commissioners. And draft 4 is the ordinance primarily that came back.
I understand. And, being a commissioner myself for many, many years, I would just say that it's their bailiwick. Ordinances, their power. They have the power to determine ordinances. If they want to do one or not want to do one, that's completely up to them. I think what you're really getting at is, do they have to have a public hearing on the recommendations that we make to them as far as ordinances go? I think that's what you're getting at.
Well, I know that based on Indiana Code, what is it, 607? Yeah, that there is a procedure and we work through that procedure for so many days, with, certified, blah, blah, blah. We went through all that. But I think it comes down to that what my understanding is that it was intended that there be an amended ordinance sent back or by the commissioners. If they were not going to accept the certified ordinance provided by the commission, then there should have been amendments made to that certified ordinance, which now became the official ordinance.
And I don't have any knowledge of any of that, so it's hard for me to speak to. Certainly, I think it's very good practice if you gentlemen take the time to do something, to give it consideration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just common sense, really. Anything an elected official should do, but I don't know what happened or didn't happen, so.
How would you-
hard for me to comment.
Yeah, how would you suggest that we clarify that area of concern?
David, do you want the code? I've got it right here. Do you want to read through it?
Is it the minutes or?
The actual ordinance code that he's talking about, that once it was returned to the APC, how long the APC had to address it before it had to go back to the commissioners,
Sure.
what's required.
I mean, we can kick this around. We don't have to have an answer tonight.
I would prefer not to give one.
Yeah, because I really believe that if I were you, I'd want to actually take a look at the ordinances and make sure that, there was some attempt to amend the one that was certified by the planning commission that was sent back. So I'm not asking for a resolution to this tonight. That's what I'm telling you. I don't think we're going to fix this.
Well, that particular issue or item.
Yeah.
But to your point, ordinances, most ordinances I know, in a small town, if it has anything with fines, fees, penalties, it needs to be brought before the public. But if it's like an amendment to an ordinance, like
Should we not have?
nuisance that doesn't not tie to the actual fines, then you don't need one.
But isn't it my understanding that the commission can offer amendments to an ordinance to the commissioners for their approval also, as they can offer amendments back to whatever we send them?
We are an advisory board to them, right?
I have one question. Are the commissioners obligated to accept whatever we pass? If we pass something, are they obligated?
They're not obligated to accept it.
Okay, thank you.
Are they obligated to amend it if it's certified and sent to them?
They're obligated to amend what?
Whatever it is that we certify to them.
I don't think they have any obligation to do anything other than I think it's just good policy. This is just my opinion. To review here, whatever recommendations come from this body. That's what I think.
Okay.
But they do not have to act on what's sent to them. They can pass their own ordinances as they see fit.
Okay,
They're the elected officials, and I mean, that's just their duty.
okay.
That's what elections are for. If someone doesn't like what they've done.
Let me see if there's anything else under that.
Okay, so we're still under powers and duties of the various planning commissions. Powers, mainly the powers.
So then, David, would it be possible that this commission could propose amendments to an ordinance to the commissioners for their approval?
I think absolutely you have the ability to do that. And I think that's what you're getting at under 2.12 maybe.
Yes,
Adoption text amendment of an ordinance.
yes,
Yeah, I think you absolutely have the power to do that. Absolutely.
okay,
Because and again, it makes sense for you to have the power to do that because you're on the front line of all these issues. The commissioners don't necessarily know what is going on in a particular situation, a particular zoning situation. So absolutely, it makes sense for you to have the ability to do that.
and the reason I bring that up to this commission is, as if you guys remember, as we were talking, we were going over what all was going to be involved in the event that there was a solar development to take place, and the fees that were going to, or the costs that this county was going to incur in order to work through that development plan. And the question was, are the fees sufficient enough to cover those costs as we work through the development plan? Or do we need to consider raising them? Because it should not be the county's expense for a solar company to come in here with us to make sure that the development plan is so. You remember that?
The fees should always be adequate to cover our costs, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the only way that we could, help me, the only way that that could be changed is through an amendment to the current ordinance, because for whatever reason, that ordinance had fees set to it that weren't set by this commission. Correct?
I made corrections in draft 5 that got handed out through draft 5 and draft 6 for 3 months. You had them in your hands and no one looked at them. We never discussed them on the big screen. I had every change, addition, everything that was brought up was on the big screen out there at the 4-H fairgrounds, was in your hands, and we never got around to going through it. So those sat there through draft 5 and draft 6 and never got discussed.
But I guess my question is, it would be reasonable to consider if the fees aren't sufficient enough to cover the cost of the county, why would the county carry that load? Yeah,
And I think that would be a conservative amendment. Absolutely.
yeah,
And by proposing an amendment, they're bringing it to their attention.
yeah. I mean, I think there were some other things that came out of that. The last undeveloped interstate exchange in our county is going to be absorbed by solar? I mean, is that really what we want to do? I mean, Steve, I've heard you say we need a cap on this thing. We don't have a cap on it. I mean, I really believe that there are some things that need to be considered.
What would we do to prevent that?
We write the ordinance to where it's not permitted within that designated area for future development.
Which I believe is down your way. Is that correct?
Is it down my way? Well, it's the last undeveloped intersection
Yeah,
in I
yeah.
69 State Road 26.
Bringing that to fruition here, because again, we're not supposed to have any bias
Yeah.
or any conflict of interest on this board.
No,
Are we,
So-
all right, we need to get back on course because we're actually looking at rules and procedures on how we should work. And yes, these are things that maybe if we want to try to change things, anything within an ordinance, there are procedures to make that happen. Robert, you want to make a comment?
You've addressed it. Thank you.
So, yes, if we approve these and we understand that is our job, we're a recommending body. They can take it, throw it out like many people perceive they did. They can do that. Just like what we did earlier tonight with the pond ordinance. We recommend it to the county commissioners and they'll go out to the cities and towns that are members to adopt. The adjustment to the slaughterhouse, it's going to go to the commissioners. They could say, no way. We just recommendation to them. So as long as we understand, we do have some, we could recommend, hey, we think the feeds are out of line for this or whatever it is. In any ordinance. This is the what it says, and this is how you understand, this is why it's understand. So this is why it's written right here in front of us, rather than Indiana code will let you do that. We see it right in front of us within the document. Any other items within that first group there?
We have a seal?
Got a seal?
A seal? Okay.
Are you down the duties and through duties? Because I stopped reading them before we got the duties. Anything of that first section before 2.2? Okay, duties of Grant County area plan per Indiana code shall perform the following duties. Supervise and make rules for the administration of the affairs of the planning department. Prescribe uniform rules pertaining to investigations and hearings. Keep a complete record of all departmental proceedings. Record and file all bonds, contracts, and assume responsibility for custody and preservation of all paper and documents of the planning department. Prepare, publish, and distribute reports, ordinance, and other materials related to the area planning commission activities. Adopt a seal. Certify all official acts. Supervise the fiscal affairs of the area planning commission. Prepare and submit the annual budget. Any questions or concerns down through there? Good?
Looks good. Where did that come from?
That is word for word from Indiana code.
From Indiana code. So all this is everything in red.
Yeah, basically the,
Come in Indiana code.
In Indiana, we had them combined. Indiana actually defines them as power and duty, so I separated them out and listed.
So we are subject to this regardless of whether or not it's in our local rules, regulations, correct?
Right.
Yeah, fine.
So, I mean, even if it wasn't in there, it's still our.
Right, right. So again, I'll, make the statement that's expressed. It doesn't need to be incorporated.
I,
My comment.
yeah, that's your comment.
I would note our updated version, just so that we're aware, we went from 16 pages to 18 pages. That's how much bigger it got.
So Ryan, how are you notified of an Indiana code change?
Through the state. State, any changes through Changes go into effect July 1st, generally get published in September.
Is that a legislative action that creates a change in Indiana codes?
Yes. So with this, the one thing about adding these codes, it allows me once a year to spend a day, anything been updated.
So it can only change once a year.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Is that true? Dave?
from what I've seen, it's,
No, that's not correct.
yeah, I mean, it can change more than that, but any changes generally get published for us in September for local government. That I've found.
So are you specifically notified of any change that occurs at any time through the year?
No, it's like following solar that went through. It's all new laws go into effect July 1st, get published in September.
January 1.
See, that's a little concerning.
Normally what happens is everybody in county government they'll have their, county officials meetings with statewide, and that's where you learn all your new changes in the statutes. I know one's coming. I know Steve's probably already having to deal with it. It's not in here, and that's, it's not there yet, but it's coming. The state has given us some time to do it, but that's putting all meetings, would probably qualify on
Right.
public to watch, record, keeping that kind of thing.
By
Yeah.
2025, correct?
So you're not quite have to worry about it, but you will in the next couple of years.
Do you have an opinion as to whether the code text is needed in a rules and procedure thing?
I personally like to see it in there, because if somebody goes and wants to see the rules online, which, these will be online, they want to know the rules, doesn't say a state statute code. So it's kind of explains to the public what's going on, what people's responsibilities and duties are. Because those duties are your absolute duties by state statute. But it's what you do anyway. I mean, you might not think about, why am I doing this, but it's what you're doing. But I just think it's good for the public to see that in black and white, that it's there. I certainly understand Bob's position too, my preference, not that it really matters. It's your guys' decision. I think it helps public to have that in there.
Would we be under any liability if it was incorrect in here?
No, I don't. If it's state statute, you got state statute in there, I don't see how there's any liability attached to that.
Even if it's changes and we don't have it?
Well, now, changes we need to stay on top of, because if it changes, if the state code changes and we do something in violation of the state code, then we can't do it.
Think bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast for years.
Yeah.
That rule changed in 2018. And because we weren't monitoring, no one was monitoring it. We didn't allow it in any residential areas. It's been allowed in all residential areas since 2018. So I mean, we were 3 years behind on that because we weren't keeping up on it. This makes this simple.
I think what's important is what David said, Ryan, that we need to stay current. If we're going to publish this, it needs to stay current. Now, is it going to require an action on this board for every change that's made?
If the state statute is passed and it is in conflict with our rules, then our rules have got to be amended to reflect that.
So it can be an amendment, not a whole new.
Right.
You can amend you can amend it 2.2.21. This code has changed and we now.
Or add sections, such and such.
But we have to do that regardless of whether we had stated here physically or not.
We need to be aware of
So
it.
that's where I would basically come and present to you that the law.
These are
that
the
changes.
changes.
Does this require commissioner approval?
This is our rules. of
Yeah,
procedure.
if it's a change to our ordinance.
It's your rule. These are your rules. You guys need to approve them.
No, commissioner.
Commissioner.
Yeah, does it stop with us? Because I'm just thinking if we're going to have a situation where the Indiana code changes and we got to go through the procedure of changing this, how many steps down the road?
It stops.
It stops with us. Okay.
They're your rules.
Now,
They're not their rules.
If it changes the ordinance, like we're gonna find with what we're doing here, it's going to change our ordinance here. Because our ordinance is also doesn't meet Indiana code. So what we do here is going to change this. This is going to take a recommendation to the commissioners and all the town boards.
Okay, just as long as it stays, any changes stay with this group and it doesn't float on up the chain.
Unless it affects the ordinance, like you said.
Yeah, if there's a change within an ordinance because of a
Okay. Let me ask, if the second layer that we are not speaking to, we're talking about the state and us, there is the county handbook. Would the same thing be true there if whoever it is that is in charge of changing the county handbook or the county code, that were to change, then does this, and it happens to reflect on this group, then do we need to either incorporate that or do we need to amend it if it's already in here? I mean,
If that happens, yes.
both places
Yeah,
would have to.
That's probably.
For the
We've got two different
BZA,
levels, guys.
for the BZA and the APC, as you guys finish this,
Yeah.
I will go back and review this and bring this back to you.
Yeah, so we're constantly in a situation that we can avoid.
Because we've also got building codes in here that's not involved here. There is a lot that we have in here that does not.
We haven't even looked at that yet, then to incorporate that into this, so this is.
Into building codes, yeah.
Okay.
This was from the beginning, this was my year 4 plan. Year 3 was comp, year 4 was.
Would you guys consider this valuable discussion?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. As long as we're not kicking the can down the road, I mean, I want to just see some progress. I mean, I feel like things get drug out for 3 or 4 months and then we never get it completed, you know, that's my.
All right, Brad, let's move on.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to section 3 or item 3, composition of the area plan commission. So we see a lot of black. So a lot of this is what we have in the books already, right?
Yep.
So 13 members, 2 from cities with less than 10,000 and 2 with these 2 representatives, one being a member of the legislative body, appointed by the legislative body, and the other one is the city citizen member, appointed by the municipal executive. In the towns, and then got population verifications, but basically 1 from each town, because we've been around for so long, most towns that are a member have 1. It says a representative from each town. And this is a state code, right? Even though it's in black, but it is straight state code. Yep, it says per Indiana code, which we added, or was added so that you know where that came from. And you got the 6 county representatives as follows per the code. 1 from the county commissioner, 1 from county council members. Those are from the members of the county commissioner, 1 member from county council. Then representative from the county superintendent of schools, the Grant County Ag Extension Educator, or the county surveyor.
In this area, 70 grand.
And then 1 citizen member who is a resident of unincorporated area, appointed by the commissioners, and 1 member in unincorporated representing from the county council. And that gets us to our 13 members. So that is all basically, that's the way we're set up. That's code. That should not be a problem. Any questions or concerns?
Yes, Mr. President.
What you see, Rob? Boswell?
It might be well for us, I think Randy had mentioned the procedure that the BZA had adopted to approve this page by page. We're already, through 2.5 pages. Could we have, I would suggest that we do that. And we adopt page 1, motion to adopt the rules on page 1, adopt them for 2, so that in case we don't get through all 18 pages here, we will have at least.
It may make more section or more sense, Bob, to do it by number.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Like
I
1,
just think sending that as we go.
we're in 3.
Yeah.
That way it's done, and then we have accumulated amount. You understand what they're trying to say?
Yeah.
Approve each section as we go along that way.
Yes.
Let's finish up 3. So 3 is how we get our members. So anybody have any questions, concern? So do we want to go back and do each one individually, or we probably should,
Yes.
so we're consistent? So I'd take a motion to approve number 1, general statement and the rules of procedures. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You catch who that was? Brenda is not a mind reader over there. I think,
Yes, she is.
Yeah, and please say it into your microphone.
oh, because that's the way you do your minutes.
I seconded.
You, Robert second, Mr. Broyles, did you make the main motion? And Robert second. So we should call the roll?
Atkins.
Yes.
Bothwell,
No.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Nevers,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes. Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Mr. Wright.
I don't know how long we're gonna go. I just had a great grandbaby at
Ah.
5 o'clock.
Well, congratulations.
I need to kind of get to.
I was hoping not to go
for my
past
wife
9, if that
and
would be
things
all
like
right.
that.
Work at this a half, if that's okay with.
I'm gonna leave you guys in good hands. It's kind of important that I get that way and.
Okay.
And,
You're in, baby.
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you.
Well, we still have a quorum, yeah.
That's fine, man.
Yes, we still have a quorum.
Thank you.
So,
Well, congratulations.
thank you. I'll excuse myself and thank you very much.
Congratulations on the
Thank you,
raise.
thank you.
Boy or girls? He said that, didn't he?
Little boy,
All right.
little boy.
Yep. Okay.
Wyatt Evan. Wyatt Evan, that's Wyatt. Yes. Yeah, okay. No.
Okay, so next up to make a motion and a second for number 2, the powers and duties of the Area Plan Commission.
So moved.
Mr. Broyle
Second.
and Robert, second. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
No.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Nevers,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Everybody. Yes.
Bothwell says no. Everybody else says yes.
Was that a yes?
Pearson,
Yes. I see him up there. That's official.
Wright.
Good?
Someone needs to tell Tyson he can move the camera.
Made up. All right, so, and then we also did, number 3, the composition of the Area Plan Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Broyle made the motion. Mr. Boswell, second. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Nevers,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
All right, so that brings us up to section 4. 4 is membership of the commission qualifications of citizens members. So a lot of this is read because it was not actually printed out, so but this is all from state code, if I recall.
Fahrenheit helps restore the natural barrier so I can.
So membership of commission for qualifications of citizen members. Each citizen member per IAC code shall be appointed because of the members' knowledge and experience in community affairs and members' awareness of the social, economic, agricultural, and industrial problems of the area, and the members' interest in the development and integration of the area.
Delivered rapid.
Or 2, the citizen members may not hold an elected office. Well, I know when we go and appointing people to BZA, they cannot be an elected official. So that's why we have to have the,
Check. Rapid symptom
okay,
relief.
they cannot be an elected official or elected office. Means official office, state office, legislative office, school board office, or local office. That's what's defined as a elected official.
F,
0.2.2,
people 15 older with at least one heart disease risk.
any other appointed office in municipality, county, or state government, except for the membership on the Board of Zoning Appeals as required by section 902 of this chapter, and in the case of an area plan commission membership on the body for which the member must be appointed under this series.
This was easily the worst dinner service ever. Yeah, it's cute. All new Thursday on.
Subject to subsection D, a citizen member must meet one of the following requirements. The member must be a resident of the jurisdictional area of the planning commission. The member may also be required by statute to reside within an unincorporated area of the judicial area of the planning commission. A member must be a resident of the county and own real property located in whole or part of the jurisdictional area of the planning commission. The member may also be required by statute to own real property within the unincorporated area of the judicial area of the planning commission. Any questions to that point so far?
All Indiana code, right?
That's my understanding.
Again, not needed.
Okay, now at least the majority of the total member of the citizen member appointed to a planning commission must be a resident of the jurisdictional area of the planning commission. I don't think I've ever seen us come to that problem before. The commission shall determine whether a citizen member meets the applicable residency requirements for appointment in accordance with uniform rules prescribed by the commission. Questions on that point? Okay, removal. The appointing authority may remove a member from the area plan commission for cause. The appointing authority must mail notice of the removal along with a written reason for the removal to the member at the member's resident address. A member who is removed may, within 30 days after receiving notice of the removal, appeal to the removal to the circuit or superior court of the county. The county may, pending the outcome of the appeal, order the removal or stay the removal of the member per Indiana code. So that is like if the town of Sweetser wanted to take me off, or Jonesboro wanted to remove their citizen rep. There is procedures for that, but there is also an appeal process that the person could act on. Vacancy appointments or alternate members per Indiana code. So if there's a vacancy, if a vacancy occurs among the planning commission members who are appointed, then the appointing authority shall appoint a member for the unexpired term of the vacating member who meets the same requirements as the vacating members, including residency. And that should be not later than 90 days after the vacancy occurs. So when there is a vacancy, they're supposed to be filled within 90 days by the. It's something that we've never really dealt with, but it's in there is an alternate. The appointing authority may also appoint an alternate member who meets the same requirements as a disqualified member, including residencies, to participate with the commission in a hearing or discussion if the regular member appointed by the appointing authority has a disqualification under section 223C of this chapter. An alternate member shall have all the powers and duties of a regular member while participating in the hearing or discussion. So I don't think I've ever seen that happen here, but if there was definitely like a major conflict of interest where they should not be participating, the authority, that town or body could appoint somebody as an alternate while that person is
Is that
incapacitated.
Indiana code?
Yes.
So do they have to be sworn in, David? An alternate? For that meeting?
But, I would. Are you guys sworn in?
Yes.
I would think so, yes.
Why are we sworn in? That's a good
Usually-
question. I've never been sworn in.
I think,
It started with Kyle.
Pardon?
Started with Kyle. Kyle said that we should be doing it, so we started doing it with each member that
So
came.
it was Kyle's recommendation. It's not a requirement. It was
Yeah.
just,
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean,
I wondered because, you know, you guys had to go through that process, so on, and, you know, Chuck, for example, was never sworn in. I wasn't. I don't think Rob was either.
Not the first time.
Yeah.
Second time.
The second time you have been, so. Anyway, just a question.
okay. 4.6.3,
You weren't sworn in either, Jerry.
No, sworn at, but not sworn in.
You get that every night right here.
the next one talks about a vacancy within the county surveyor. While the county surveyor is serving on the area plan commission, then the county highway super shall participate with the plan commission during the times the office of the county surveyor is vacant. County engineer has all the powers and duties of a regular member while participating under this section.
Where'd the county engineer come into that? Cause I thought we were talking about the highway and the surveyor.
The surveyor's not there.
It says if the county surveyor is serving on the plan commission, then the county highway superintendent shall participate with the commission.
Yeah, because this calls for a county engineer, and the closest we've got to a county engineer is David, our county superintendent,
Oh, so
basically.
the highway guy is really considered the county engineer.
Right.
So we're using. Okay.
Yeah.
That just seems like the county engineer just came out of that.
Yeah, the code calls for county engineer. Closest thing we've got is David.
Okay. So that's not, does the code say highway superintendent?
No, it says engineer. I mean, this is word for word what you've got.
Okay. Well, it can't be word for word because you got highway superintendent in here. You're telling me it's not in the code. Under 4.6.3, then the county highway superintendent shall participate with the plan commission during the time.
Okay.
So
Well, the one I got
parentheses,
is word for word.
county engineer, and then you can clean that up.
I tried to go back and find my worksheet, my workbook. That's all I had was the finished.
Yeah.
So what are we changing there?
If you take highway superintendent and then in parentheses, put county engineer, however that's supposed to be, David, how would you do that?
I know, I think you're exactly right. My question would be, what if the county doesn't have an engineer?
We don't.
Does the county have an engineer now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. David would be the closest thing I would think.
He's the superintendent, yeah, he's not the engineer.
Or you could say county engineer or their.
I don't think you can't designate if you don't have one. We always had one, but I don't think they do now. It'd be wrong, but I don't think they.
So right now we have the county surveyor filling that spot. So if he's not able to, and there is not a county engineer, then that spot may be not fillable.
It's probably supposed to be county highway superintendent, those spots, I'm guessing, but I don't know that for a fact. I looked at the code, it's like looking on.
Maybe to get, well,
I've got a present for you when we're done.
You already there? Does it say?
This is your book.
Does it say engineer?
It says engineer.
It's interesting. So it doesn't say anything about superintendent,
No.
but that's incorrect. That's written.
So you guys figure out how to clean it up. We want to prove for tonight. How's that?
Just put it engineer in.
Yeah.
and then if you don't have one, you don't have one.
Okay.
We don't have.
Just leave it at,
Don't fill.
Maybe if
What?
it ever comes up, I didn't know.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that has to be changed. I think you're exactly right. The engineer, not superintendent.
Okay, so then 4.7. You got that noted? Okay,
So we're gonna take out county highway superintendent and we're gonna replace that with
County engineer.
Got that, Ryan?
Yep.
Okay, next up is 4.7 absences. Failure to attend 3 consecutive regular meetings without the recorded consent of the president or vice president or executive director shall be construed as the member's official resignation at the discretion of the appointing authority per Indiana code.
My question to that is, who's keeping score here? Linda, are you keeping attendance? And there's a notification process stated here?
Well, so it's it reads that it's construed as a member's official resignation. But then it talks about at the discretion of the appointing authority. So if let's say I would miss 3 in a row, does the town of Sweetser still want me to be there? And they say, well, he's still going to be that one. Or are they going to put somebody else? So it still comes, at least the way I interpret that line, is the appointing authority still has the call, even though you may never show up. But
The way you see that?
Okay, here on this, if you'll remember, Indiana code is the basic, the factual part of it, that 3 misses is considered a resignation.
right.
3 misses not excused.
Yes.
No.
They've not done
It's
it.
Well, it says here without consent from the president, vice president.
appointed member who misses 3 consecutive regular meetings of the plan commission may be treated as if the member had resigned at the discretion of the appointing authority. So we have added, Randy's in the hospital. Okay, we get it. So we excuse it. But that's, again, what code says is 3 misses is 3 misses.
But again, that portion at the discretion of the appointing authority. So you could, like, as to what Chuck said, you could never come to a meeting if your appointing authority says, no, he's staying, he stays. Yeah.
They would, I think, and like 4.7,
Yes.
Let me ask about that, because that's become an important thing. There's been several people involved in that. Is it not implied here that it's 3 consecutive meetings without excuse? And
That's what it says.
that Chuck and or.
Right.
Who do we call, for example, if we have COVID, like I did last month?
Mhm.
And get that to understand that that's not one of my 3
well, I think,
meetings.
um,
You have the authority, so we call and tell you, and what things then are excused? Illness be one, death in the family be one, but I don't know, what are those things for which we'd be excused? Or is it going to be up to us as commissioners to call and let you know, hey, I'm not feeling well, won't be able to be there, and you will understand that that does not accrue against the. We need to clarify that.
well, I know Monday morning, Brenda calls everybody. Hopefully she gets an answer. Sometimes she leaves a message and then people will get back, or I think like last meeting, you said you were sick and she relayed that because she calls me last apparently. So we know if we had a quorum or not. And then she'll run through the ones that say, well, this person, like you were sick last month, that's good with me. And then there's some that we just don't get a hold of. Now, the ones that don't get a hold of, then maybe, and it should be more because we do leave a message. They should get back if.
Yeah, if they miss 3 consecutive meetings and we don't hear a word from them while trying to call them each month, then that's where we would assume if we can't talk to you after 3 months, we would.
It'd be the responsibility of the commission to let you know that, I can't attend tonight because I have, something. And once you've been informed of that, then that would be accepted and would not accrue against the 3. Is that is that agreeable?
I would think of it as a valid reason. If you say, I just don't want to show up. That may not be, but.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Do we need to know why? Do we need to know why? is a valid reason.
Well, anything that says-
Or can we just have, a general understanding that, hey, if he calls and says he can't be here tonight and that I have, reason, we just accept that. I would think that would be good.
I would also, that we would be professional enough that if it did get to that, we would.
Find out what's going on.
Have a conversation.
Yeah, find out.
Prior to going to that.
One additional point, I wish Steve were still here on this particular item. A year ago, this time, we went through a rather contested meeting. We've had several of those, and I may be the reason for some of that, I understand. But Mr. Wright spoke to us about 18 meetings that we had and we still have 2 months to go. Now, there needs to be a differentiation. I asked him to send me the 18 meetings. What are you talking about, 18 meetings? We have 11 regularly scheduled meetings. Okay, now apparently, we have taken attendance when somebody called a meeting for solar and counted that as if we didn't show up. We weren't necessarily invited. It's not one of our regular meetings, but Steve was interpreting that if you don't attend every one of somebody's meetings, if the commissioners call for something at a meeting for solar and we're involved in solar, we have
No.
11 meetings. So this 3 thing should apply just to our regular.
And that would be true. And then later on, we talk about when a meeting can be called and how a meeting can be called.
Well,
So if there's an official meeting called, then everybody should be either they're at the meeting or we don't have everybody here, then you have to go through certain processes to notify everybody.
Other than the regularly scheduled meetings.
Yes.
What would be an official called meeting and who would make that decision?
There's procedures in here on who can call a meeting. Just like you wanted to have a special meeting to go over this. If we decide that we want to do that before we leave here tonight, we discuss it. Then since not everybody's here, we got to go through the proper advertising and notifications to have another meeting. And that would be an official meeting where official action can be taken.
An official meeting.
That's not a regular.
Spatial and or regular.
A special meeting.
That is not
Okay,
a regular.
but
meeting.
those would be the only
It's a
ones
special
that
meeting.
count. It wouldn't be.
Well, no, the commissioners, yeah, they could invite us, but we wouldn't have to be there.
In other words, the 18 meetings that we were threatened with a year ago, those 18 did not occur.
I don't know per se, because I know we were having meetings. I think we basically did it on a regular monthly basis. I don't know if we had 2 in a month related to that. I think we might have, but I don't know if we had 18 in a year.
The 11 meetings are regular meetings, and by this, as it's written, we are only required per the attendance to attend the regular meetings.
Correct.
Anything outside of that is extra. And yes, we should be attending those, obviously, because it's very important, but the requirement is only on the 11 meetings that are scheduled regularly, the 1 monthly meeting.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And we were.
And where did you read that, Robert?
So it says failure to attend 3 consecutive regular meetings. Anything outside of a regular meeting,
Oh, I
special
see.
meeting, executive meeting, anything like that does not fall under a regular meeting.
Hmm.
That's everything outside of it. So those,
Okay.
that'd be confined to the 11 meetings. Like on your council,
Right,
I
right.
have 2 regular meetings. Everything else outside of that is extra meetings.
Okay. Duly noted. And that's the way it is read.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. It doesn't say any,
So for
Special
enforcement
meeting.
purposes, guys.
Can I add a couple things?
Yes, sir.
I got the code in front of me now. First of all, this is only applying to the appointment, to the, it said, the code says an appointed member who misses 3 consecutive regular meetings of the plan commission may be treated as if the member has resigned at the discretion of the appointing authority. A couple of important points. Number one, it says may be treated.
Mhm.
So that gives us discretion. Our rules to
right.
do what we've done with getting consent of the president or vice president or executive director. So I think we're okay when we do that. I would suggest maybe after regular meetings, either a little section underneath that defines regular meeting or put parentheses after that, that you're specifically talking about the 11 regular scheduled meetings. I think everyone here knows what regular meeting is because you've all been on discussion, but 5 years from now, we're going to.
Right, regulars.
They might not know. So I think it might make some sense to add that somewhere how a regular meeting's defined.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
That makes sense.
You've brought up a very concerning point.
Yes, sir.
We are under the understanding that what's written in red is Indiana code. You just veered from that based on what you read.
Yeah. Maybe trade, maybe, it doesn't. say-
May, yeah, it says May.
About,
Yeah.
this was part of what we did when we did it.
Okay,
I pointed all this out to you guys. If you remember, I had our code, Indiana code, and
I just want to clear that
Yeah,
up.
right.
This is not verbatim text in Indiana
That,
code.
that area.
Okay, thanks. Because I think we had that impression.
most of them I would say is word for word. I mean,
Okay.
this one, that's why we read it.
And that's why I got a little asterisk out here. So do we want to just add behind their regular monthly meetings?
Good enough.
So you can say, or put, yeah, regular monthly meeting, put monthly for the meetings, probably does what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to vote on that?
We will.
We are almost at the end, well, we kind of went over 4.71, executive director shall notify an appointing authority of a member's official resignation. The appointing authority should have 90 days to fill the appointment per Indiana code. So that would be maybe if somebody actually resigns, then you gotta go through the proper procedures to do that. Okay, so that's section 4, membership of commission qualifications of citizen members. Any further discussion? We'll take a motion to approve it with the changes noted.
So moved.
Mr. Broyle, second. Brian? Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
No.
Royals,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
House,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Nevers,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Okay, I was hoping to stay until 9 o'clock. It's a few minutes before. Do we wish to continue or continue on?
I want to make a motion to end the meeting, but I've got a question first.
Okay,
I think with the BZA, if somebody is on the web for 3 meetings, they lose their right to vote?
They can vote for 2, they've got to be here for the 3rd.
Okay, so if they're gone for 3, then the 3rd one, they can't vote. Is that in here somewhere?
it's electronic. At the end, there's where we passed the ordinance. I think it is at the very end or near the end.
Is it in here?
Yeah, electronic
We're putting it at the
participation,
end so we didn't lose.
page 16.
All right, I make a motion
There.
to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right.
Hey, Randy,
All right, so we'll pick up at number 5. I heard that, Tyson. Thank you.
Question.
we took it out.
This has to do with the permits that are issued and how, what you get on the internet, what you get printed in the office, they're not correct.
I think you brought that up at the last meeting.
Feel that, I thought maybe you could tell me what's up with it. What needs to be done about it.
I think we're migrating, transferring to this new online system, and hopefully all these things will be handled better than what the old system was, so we can be more effective.
So I can come to these meetings and I will get an update from Ryan saying, we're updating this.
We are hoping to be live with our first permits on Wednesday.
Can you tell me how many years it's been since the permit has been officially updated? How many years ago?
That software that you've got is 1997.
1997.
And like I said, we're looking at residential permits, electrical permits, sign permits, and contractors registration
Yeah, it's.
Going-
it needs to be
going-
updated.
live this Wednesday.
I mean, if you look at it from my perspective, I have live in the country. Normally, 7 cars go down the road in a half hour, and when they hold an event, I can have anywhere from 50 to 250 plus cars go down that road. This permit needs to be updated so that doesn't happen again to somebody else. Mr. Wright told me to hire a lawyer if I didn't like how the zoning went. I don't think that's necessary. It's been over 20 years since it's been updated. It needs to be.
I will speak on, I agree, but we have financial restrictions because the county council, who has the purse strings, limits the amount, they set the budget. We may have asked over many, many years that we need to upgrade for software and this and that. We finally, about 2 years ago, they approved. And by the time we found the company and all that, we finally are getting there. So we actually have made some progress finally on updating software. The county council controls the purse strings. It's a
When's their next meeting?
county council.
It's the third Wednesday of the month. They actually, well, they've got salary hearings this Wednesday, so they won't hear you then,
What
but
time? Third Wednesday, what time?
third Wednesday at 6, right here.
So they control the purse strings. We submit a budget and I'm sure in the past we'd like to have software. And they finally did listen a few years back. And not only for our use, but throughout the whole county, health department and all that. So they all have access for different modules within the program. So finally, we got some issues. But I agree, it probably did need to be improved. And we did have a motion to adjourn. We'll see everybody next month.
I don't think we voted, did we?
We did. We all said aye.
Did we?
Yeah.
For what?
You just did.
Okay.
She was talking.
What was that? Yeah, popping in.
No.
Okay.
All right.
I think we will, Bob. I think we will. I think we're right. Over there Friday.
I'm like,
Which was very.
I'm a doer.
Which.
I'm not here.
Used to be a.
I'm not here
classroom.
for support. County's work.
Who was on that, Mike?
the Nevers?
This.
AB.
She done, she.
Well, I appreciate that.
And my aunt went over there and talked to the worker, said, you know, what are you doing? And they said, well, we're just doing what we're told. They started building pews outside in October and, November. And we thought, he must be doing that for his church, that they're gonna take him and have. Already left. And they sat there. Anyway, this April, they put a sign up for the event center. It's residential area.
So what you're telling me is that building.
That's what I was thinking.
It's there. It's already there because it was school that they renovated. They got a permit to only renovate 100 and whatever. And they renovated it for an event center. I mean, it's nice. You look in
So I think you're suggesting they renovated a heck of a lot.
Oh, yeah, they did. They supposedly, no, it wasn't on the permit. They, they put up fences, the sign, they didn't get permits for any of that. And this builder knows better, Dan Young. And I said, fine him. If every permit it says fine. Well, we don't have the money. We don't. And I'm going, if they don't find him, he's gonna continue to do it. Well, I'm gonna go to the next meeting and